Hi guys, welcome to another Divi Theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, we had a great question. Somebody was asking how to fade in a button over time, which is what we've done here. If I refresh this page here, once it refreshes, after about 10 seconds or so, we're going to have a little button appear here. It's just going to scale in. And there it is. Really easy to do. We've got to do a little bit of coding to make this happen today, but it's not difficult, and any code I write I'll put below the video. So let's get started. I'm going to enable the Visual Builder so we can build on the front end. Once enabled, let's go down. I've got a section here, the blue tab. Inside I've got a row, the green tab with a single column in it. I've got a little blurb module up there, and here's our little button that we want to fade in down here. I'm going to delete this and we'll start from scratch. So just under my blurb, I'm going to click on blurb, hit the little dark button to add a new module. Divi comes as standard with all these modules here, plenty enough to build just about any site. I'm going to use a simple button module for this today. This will work with any module that you care to use it on though, but the question was for a button, so let's do a button. And there it is, it's put the button in over here. Let's just pop it into the middle. Gone over to the design tab to alignment. I'm going to pop him in the middle. Okay, let's go back. Obviously in the text you put what you want your button to say. Say learn more or more information, whatever it is you want to say on yours. Down below in the link, funny enough, is where you put the link where you want to take your visitors. Always best practice, if you're linking to your own site, leave it in the same window. If you're linking off-site, open it in a new tab. That way your site will stay open. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time decorating this. I'm going to do a few little things. Let's make the text light in color. That's fine. I'm just going to use simple custom styles to the button. I'm just going to give it a colored background and a few things like that. Button text color is fine as white as it is at the moment. Button background, let's make that purple. I'm going to take that border away. Button border width just down below. Take that down to 0 to get rid of the border. And let's give it a different color on hover. And this is common to all Divi modules. If you hover over the dark writing, you'll see some icons appear. Go to the thing that you want to adjust, which in our case is the button background color here. If there's a little arrow there is in our case, we can click on it. We've got a desktop state, is when your mouse is not on it. I want it to stay purple. So you've got a hover state when your mouse is on it. We'll click on that one and let's turn it to blue just down below. There we go. And we'll pop it back to regular desktop state, which is purple. Pretty much done with this button now. I'm going to take the icon away. I don't particularly want an icon on mine, so I'm just going to switch the show button icon to off. And that's all I'm going to do with this button. There's our little button. Okay, to make this happen today, we need to target with a bit of CSS, and we're going to be using keyframes to build this today. To target it with CSS, we have to give it a handle or a name. And that's called a custom CSS ID or class. So if we go over to advanced, here's CSS ID or classes, it would work with an ID. I'm going to use a class for this today. And let's call it btn, my shorthand for button, and fade, for button fade in perhaps. Now we've got a name that we can target it with some custom CSS. So we'll save this now. And make sure your page changes are saved. Now it's saved, we need to go to our dashboard and to our customizer to write the code today. So let's go down to the dashboard. Once down to the dashboard, you need to go down to appearance and then to customize right here. Click on customize. That's going to take us to this page here. You may notice I've actually set our page as the home page temporarily for this today. You don't need to do that. I've just put it there so that you can see anything that's going on. Right at the bottom here, you're going to find an additional CSS panel. This is where we need to write our code today. Here's where I wrote the code to do it just now. I'm going to delete that and we'll start from scratch. Let's move the hover animation or the hero animation down below out of the way so there's no confusion. And we'll start off at the top here. Always a good idea to give your code a title, especially if you write a lot of code. To give it a title, it's / ***. In between the two stars, you can write your title. And we'll say button fade. And it's a great place for notes and things like that. Anything between the stars will not be read as code. Okay. Now we gave it a class name. All class names have to have a dot or a period in front. So it's a dot, then the class name, which was btn, my shorthand for button, and fade, all one word. Now we want to decide what we want to do with it. So let's open and close some curly brackets. And the idea today was to have this button just sort of fade in after a specific time period that you want to set. So we're going to say, that's actually an animation we're using to build this today. So I'm going to say animation. And we need to come up with a new name for our animation. So let's say btnfde. It can't be the same exactly as our class name, but it can be close. And I like to have things make a bit of sense to me. That way, if I have to inspect the code, I can usually figure out what it is from my shorthand. Okay, so we've given it a name, the animation. How long do we want it to last? Well, the person that asked this question wants minutes. I'm going to do seconds because there's no point me having you stare at the screen for a minute to see this button fade in. So I'm going to put, say, 12 seconds. Well, let's make that 10 seconds, nice round number. Semicolon. That's how long the actual animation is going to take there. I only want it to happen once, so I'm going to leave it just like that. Great. Well, now we need to actually create this animation called btnfade. In fact, that should be btnfade. Doesn't make any difference, but just make more sense to me if it's btn. Right, let's go down and create this animation. We're using keyframes for this today, so I need to say @keyframes. We'll give it that name, btnfde. Great. Now what do we actually want it to do? Let's open and close some curly brackets, and inside we can actually build our keyframes to make this happen. Well, at 0%, when the page loads, or second one of our 10 seconds up there, let's put 0%. We'll open and close some curly brackets. I want it to be totally invisible, so I'm going to say opacity 0. Opacity is see-throughness or transparency, if you like. 0 is completely invisible. 1 is completely visible. And you can increment up in 0.1, 0.2 for different transparencies. That's great. And I want it to continue all the way up to about 8 seconds, I guess. And then we'll have it sort of fade in. So let's copy that 0% to the first curly bracket there. Control C. And I'm just going to say, turn this one to 50%. I still want it to be invisible at 50%. If I don't put these increments in, it's actually going to fade in from 0, slowly fade in. If I do these percentage increments, it's not going to do anything until we tell it to fade in. And let's paste that down one more time. And let's say 80%. Still want it to be invisible. But I'm also going to have mine sort of scale in, so it's a bit bigger when you first see it, and then it will shrink down. So at 80%, I'm also going to add transform scale, scale, and we need some round brackets right at the end of scale with no gap. And inside, I'm going to scale it up maybe by 1.2, and that'll do both height and width, 1.2 times the size. So you can comma separate them if you want different height and width by saying 1.2, comma, and then the other variation 2.1 if you want different sizes. I want mine to be all the same size when it scales, so I'm just putting the one value in there. Okay, well, let's do this one more time, and we'll say 90%. And this is where we want it to actually fade in at 90%. Obviously, you fix yours how you want if you want it in before that. And here we need to change this to opacity 1 to actually make it fade in. And I want it to be back to normal, so I'm going to copy my transform scale there and pop it in there. Put a little semicolon there. Always put a semicolon. If you don't, it won't read the next line within curly brackets. Okay, well, let's see what we've got. Let's publish this. We may need to add a little transition duration for that button, we may not, so we'll take a look. We'll go back to our page here, let's exit the Visual Builder, and it should refresh. There's our initial load, and after 10 seconds you should see that button fade in around here, and it should scale in, it should be bigger and then go smaller. That's absolutely fine, just like that. And like I say, this person asked the question, they wanted this to happen for minutes. So you can change this to 120 seconds to make 2 minutes if you want to. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to leave mine on 10 because I'm sure you don't want to sit there and wait for 2 minutes for that button to fade in. So we're happy with that. Let's publish that. I'm happy with the way this is working here. Let's just refresh that again so you can see what's going on one more time. And after 10 seconds, our little button should appear right under there. And there it is. So there you go, guys. Have a button fade in after a certain time period. I hope that's answered that question for you. And I hope you found this useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, ring the bell, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once again, this has been Jamie with System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.